Thank you. I'm real glad to be here. It's really a privilege. I came to this program, and the reason I cry at the countdown is I came to the program, and there weren't this many people around, and I cry when I see all of you, because you're real special to me, because my life depends on you. My continuing recovery depends on you. And I can't make it without you. I'm still here today for the same reason I came. I can't stay clean on my own. And I love you. My story isn't real exciting. I don't know, all I ever did was use. I don't know when I started using. 6, 7, 8 years old, somewhere around there. I was a fat kid, and they decided that it would be nice to put me on uppers. And I got so jacked up behind the uppers that they decided to tranquilize me and give me sleeping pills. So by the time I was 10 years old, I was using daily, and I was cheating on the prescriptions, and I was stealing my mother's scripts, and all the whole, We know. Really, I was talking to somebody the other day, and really the first thing I can remember was about using, and the fact that drugs acted differently in my body, was having my tonsils out, and they gave me that tranquilizer before the anesthesia, and I arm wrestled with the orderly. Even then, there was evidence of a disease. And all I did in my grade school and junior high and stuff like that is I just popped some pills. I didn't know there were other drugs. What the hell? I had these 3 scripts, and 50 pills never lasted 50 days. And I'd take 2 or 3 uppers one day and 2 or 3 tranquilizers the next day and 2 or 3 downers the next day. And it was just a good old time. I got into high school, and I found out there were other drugs. I had a love affair with marijuana and hash and all those good deals. And did that for a couple of years, and did a couple of years of psychedelics, and fell in love with 26. Shot a lot of acid, shot a lot of alcohol. And got turned on to heroin and morphine, and did about 3.5 years. And it doesn't sound, that's all I did. I missed my teenage years. I was never arrested. I was never hospitalized. I was never in treatment. I was never taken to the emergency ward. I didn't do any of those things. I just used every day. They shot the man up in the moon, and I nodded out and missed him stepping out of the capsule. That's what it was like. That's what it was like. Thought it was real good dope. Oh, this is great, man, and woke up on the side of, Mulholland, where my buddies had dropped me off for dead. That's what it was like. That's all I did. I don't remember, I was born and raised in California, got clean in California. I remember hearing about, the pop festivals I was at. Monterey was great. Does anybody remember it? I don't remember a thing about it. STP. Don't remember a thing. I don't remember the second one down in Orange County Fairgrounds either. And that one's a blank too. I know I was there. God, I got the ticket stub and the program and all that shit, but I don't remember. I just don't remember. And my using was real good. I was a crusader back in those. I was when, acid in every reservoir in the country. I was one of those, you know. And that was fun to think about and plan, but it never lasted from the pocket to the, you know, to the reservoir. You know. The love of my life was heroin and morphine. It's the only thing I ever loved that I know of. Must have been real early, because you see, remember I told you when I started using it was because I was a fat kid. I'm a compulsive overeater. You know, I must have taken one look at life and decided I didn't want any part of it, and that I would separate myself from everybody. And I don't know if that was family problems or what, but I decided that I didn't want any part of this life. Life was something to be endured. And I learned something as a kid that carried all the way through. I learned that if you take something, you either are, feel, or act better. And that lie almost killed me. I had one heroin run mixed in with a little morphine that lasted about 3 years. And the last year of that, I got real tired. You know, and I started looking for help. I was trying to think of what kicked off really starting to look for help, and perhaps it's when the woman I was with got pregnant. And we talked about what we were going to do with the child, because I really wanted to have that child. And I realized I couldn't promise to be alive in 6 months. And I couldn't promise to contribute to that child's life, and I couldn't promise to raise that child. And we gave the kid up for adoption. You know, or maybe it was my grandmother who always had a vial of Reds and a vial of whiskey in her purse, scalding to death in a shower. And I'm blaming myself for it, because I hated her. See, because she thought I was her son. She called me Marshall. You know, I had enough problems. I didn't need two mothers calling me different names. Maybe it was getting to the point where I loathed myself a little bit more every time I stuck a needle in my arm. Maybe it was getting to the point where I could no longer continue to do what I was doing and survive. I don't know exactly why, but I started looking for help. And there wasn't any place to go. And that's something I've thought about in the last few months and talking to some people. I looked around and I looked for help for a year, and there was no place to go. You know, there were one or two places that treated addicts that you had to have a criminal record to get into, and I didn't have one. And there were a couple of programs that were culturally oriented, like MPP and some of those, and I didn't qualify that I knew of. And I tried getting married. You know, when my grandmother scalded to death in the shower, there was this house full of furniture, and this gal with whom I had a baby, and we gave up for adoption at birth. You know, we'd been an item for 3 or 4 years, and there was this house full of furniture, so what the hell? You know, that was my thinking process. Might as well not let this furniture go to use. I mean, looked like we were going to be together a while. We're still married, by the way. And we have 2 more children. And my little boy was the first human being I was ever able to love unconditionally. So it's better. Anyway, I started calling the hotlines and the highlines around Southern California. And, you know, Bob and Sally are probably know more about this part than I do, because I don't remember much. You know, and Carl and maybe a couple other people. I don't really remember much, but I remember calling a hotline, and they asked me, "Are you eligible for Narcotics Anonymous?" And they either said eligible or qualified, but I'm not sure. And I what do you have to be? I use drugs. I want to stop. And I said, "Well, we don't know, but here's this phone number, so call it." And I called and I talked to a man who later became my first sponsor. And he said, "We have a meeting tonight, why don't you come?" First he asked me if I had a car, and I said yes. You see, I had a job and a car and a wife at this time, and, 2 cars. Couldn't drive either of them. Too loaded. Wife was no good, couldn't get it up the last year. You guys know what it's about. That's addiction. And he asked me if I had a car, and I said yes, and he said, "Well, there's a meeting tonight in Hermosa Beach." And I was, like 24 hours off of a 2.5, 3-year run. And I said, "No, I don't think I'll make it," because I couldn't lay on the king-size bed. I did my kicking on the floor. And he said, "Well, and it was 30 miles to drive besides. And there was a meeting closer on Thursday at Yucca and Gower in Hollywood. And I don't know. I think Bob was at that meeting, but I'm not sure. I don't remember much of the meeting. But I can remember taking all day to wash and dress. I wore a 3-piece black suit and tie. See, because I knew about addicts. I read Naked Lunch. Anybody ever read Naked Lunch? Remember the safety pin in the leg? I didn't do that, man. I used, droppers, syringes, dirty needles. Well, they were clean when I got them. People ask me, about being in the service. I wasn't in the service either. They wouldn't even let me give blood. And, no, thank you. They don't take blood with hepatitis. And I made that meeting, and it took me almost all day to get ready, and I arrived, and there were about 30 people there. It was one of 10 meetings in Southern California, probably one of 20 meetings in the world. And I don't remember much, but they asked me to talk, and I don't know what I said. But I must have heard something. I can remember a couple of things. They told me the one thing I can really identify with that they told me I never had to use again against my will. And I'd been doing that for a long time. I've been doing it probably for 2 years, for a year anyway. And I was real scared. And I was afraid I was going to get busted. Because, see, nobody knew about my addiction. My wife had never seen me clean. My mother hadn't seen me clean since I was 5 or 6 years old. No one had ever seen me clean because I used every day. That's all I did. But I came to the program and I came to a second meeting. The second meeting I went to was Manhattan Beach on the following night. And I left home. It's an 8:30 meeting. I left home at 7 o'clock and I couldn't find it. I drove up at 10 minutes to 10 and I had my first spiritual awakening because, you see, I didn't use between 6 and 10 o'clock. And I wasn't being supervised and I wasn't at a meeting. I was doing something positive. I was taking the action. And I believe this is a program of action. Don't tell me how good you work the steps. Don't tell me. Show me. Show me in the way you live. Show me in the way you live. Talk's cheap. Talk will kill it. I'm one of the people that were told that it might be too smart to make this program. because I had to figure it all out, and I really believe today that working this program over a period of time is a process of simplification. And I work hard at keeping it simple. I learned not to listen to my head, and I learned how to shine on my insanity. You taught me that. And the only way I can conceive of that is remember the acid trips when all you had left was don't forget you took something? And you kept saying it over and over and over again? Yeah, there are a few people who identify with that. It's the drugs. Don't forget it's the drugs. This is not real. Well, that was the only way I could deal with my intellect and my emotions. Because you told me that 90% what went through my head was bullshit. And in the time I've been here, which is, I'll celebrate my 14th birthday next month. In the time I've been here, it's probably down to about 80% of what goes through my head is bullshit. And that's good. That's really good. It's really good. I found out I couldn't trust my emotions either, paranoia. I was sitting over there crying my eyes out when we gave the book away and when we got down into the year. Because you see, I feel like my God has given me a tremendous gift. And I think my God has given all of us a tremendous gift. This isn't speaking for Greg. This is speaking not for everybody, that we get to be part of each other's lives. And we all get to contribute to each other's recovery. Everyone in this room is part of my recovery. And that's a real special thing. One of the things I want to talk about is in the insanity of my recovery, such that it is. It's been bizarre. It's been a lot of fun, but it's been bizarre. But you see, because when I came around here, I didn't work the steps. I did a lot of substitution. And the first thing I substituted was food, and I gained 180 pounds my first 2 years. Somewhere in that period of time, I went to OA and lost 75 pounds in 3 months and ended up in the hospital. They almost killed me because you don't lose 75 pounds in 3 months without getting sick. And I'm real grateful for that addiction, because I had to learn two things. I had to learn how to like myself, even though I didn't like what I had inside, and didn't like what I showed on the outside. And the second thing that gave me, was a chance to stop using drugs, because I wasn't working the steps and I had to do something. So it saved my life and forced me to learn to like myself, hating the way I looked. I think the second thing I got strung out on was sex. I went through a period of time when I couldn't sleep unless I made love to my wife or jacked off. How about reading? Any readers here? It's all right. Sit up all night and read a book. You do it 3 or 4 nights in a row and you're falling asleep on the freeway. That's addiction. Just one more chapter. Yeah. Well, how about I ain't going to the lunch truck for that sandwich at break time? And there you are. And I moved 3 tons of rock. I got interested in the lapidary. I moved 3 tons of rock from California to Oregon to Georgia. Most of it's just rock. what they call garden rock, obsession. Somebody reminded me of something I talked about, mentioned, I don't know, recently. I can remember after I was clean, and my wife, she decided that we had these, I was getting into the rocks. I had these little rocks, and it would be nice to have some shelves to put on. She wanted me to put up 2 shelves, right? With the little L-shaped brackets on the wall, so we could put the little rocks up on the shelves. And I designed a lighted display case. Was overwhelmed and never built it. She didn't get the shelves either. That's part of my addiction. Another way I noticed the difference, it's like after my little boy was born one time, my wife just blew me away. I mean, she fixed dinner, and we had peas, was one of the things we had, right? We packaged of frozen peas, 2 adults and a child, right? She served 3 servings. And I've never served servings of anything, man. I took what there was and cut it in 3 parts. That's the way I approach life. You don't leave anything. I didn't leave anything. Did you leave anything? You took what you had and, cut it up as much as you could and kept as much as you could for yourself, man. That was what it was about. I'm an addict. I have a disease. First of all, the disease is physical. And I recognized that at 5, 6, 7 years old when I had my tonsils out. I didn't know it, but I can look at it then when they gave me the tranquilizers and I got hyper. The drugs acted differently in my body, and I've been exposed to some of the research that's been done in the last 5 years. And we didn't have any of that research when I came around. We talked about an allergy for lack of a better term. And that was hard for me to buy, except I remembered the times when we all got off together and everybody got loaded but me. And the times when, I'd shoot stuff and clean the house. Or take some speed and go to sleep. Those drugs don't do that in people's bodies, non-addicts' bodies, I don't think. There's some medical people here. Maybe I'm wrong, but, I'm just assuming from back those days that, there is something that makes it impossible for me to use drugs successfully. An X factor, we used to call it. I used to like the allergy to penicillin, where people, because there seemed to be 2 kinds of people I saw coming into the program. There are people who seem to have been strung out from the first time they used. And there are people who seem to have used successfully for a while, and then all of a sudden the world went to shit. And with penicillin, some people are in trouble the first time they take it. And some people use penicillin successfully for years, no problem. And then they stub their toe and they get penicillin, and they're in big time trouble because of an allergic reaction or something. And that sounded like what happened to us. We couldn't tell when it was going to happen. It just sort of happened. I kind of figured out one thing, and this is how, together I was. I can tell you some together I was. That everybody gets allotted so many highs, right? And it's like a blind drawing, and you don't get to see it. Okay? And after you draw, it might be 0. And after you use up the number of highs you're entitled to, there ain't no more good times. And I used mine and a lot of other people's allocation. Who weren't using theirs. And that's what I figured it was about. I told you 90% of what went through my head was bullshit, remember? Another episode that convinced me of that was about a month clean. We had this big old deformed Sparklets bottle, and there was this dead fly in the bottom of the bottle, and I identified that was me, Because you see, what must have happened is that fly must have flown down in the bottle and flown around banging his head against the wall. And as he got closer to the neck of the bottle, he'd hit the wall more often. No, this can't be it. Can't be the drug. And in reality, that's why if he'd stopped flying, could have walked up the wall one step at a time and flown out the top of the bottle. But you see, he was an addict, and he died in the bottle, the Sparklets bottle, and I identified. Been a lot of insanity. Looking back, I really believe it took me 2.5 years to have any kind of understanding of the first step. It took me that long to find out about addiction. I thought first, okay, powerless over heroin, it's fucked up my life. I got clean and my life was still fucked up. I like that thing. You take the drugs away from a drug-craved maniac. What do you have? More efficient maniac? I love that thing. I love it. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to me. I found out that underneath that physical sensitivity, that allergy, that disease, in a physical sense, there was an underlying emotional and mental illness that I identify with, for me, is the addictive personality. The reason I moved 3 tons of rock from California to Oregon to Georgia, the reason I was compelled to read one more chapter in, science fiction. But I have 5,000 science fiction paperbacks. No, I got about 1,500. I've got about 5,000 mineral specimens. And a stamp collection and a coin collection. Yeah. And those of you who know me, and there's some people I love very, very deeply here. Some people, who have made my life possible. They know. I am obsessive. I get real upset. And that's part of my disease. And I also have a spiritual illness that shows up as lack of faith, lack of trust, and absolute obsession with self. And those are hard to cope with. I got done kicking, right? And I was, 6 months, right? Oh my God. That's when I started recognizing the fact of the emotional problems. And down the road, a year or two, when I had started to deal with some of the emotional problems, I'd written some inventories, I'd talked in meetings, I'd shared a lot one-on-one, and I loved what, I forget who said it, I think Jim said it yesterday, I didn't get it in the meetings. I got it in the parking lot. And I got it in a coffee shop. And I got it in the car. That's where I learned about this program, because that's when I could ask all those questions that I didn't have any answers for. The questions like, do I have to stop using everything? Because I didn't come here to stay clean for any length of time. I came here because I was hurting and because the drugs had stopped working. And, I figured I'd kick and clean up. And then some asshole told me that, it took 6 months to get drugs out of your system. I now understand it's like 11 months or something. They've upped that one, getting down microscopically or something. And I was really pissed. And I figured I'd go for it because then I might be able to get off on a nickel bag. I was heartbroken when they found out they didn't have any more dime bags. My second surrender. No, not really. And I looked at it. And I looked at it. I lost my place. I don't remember what I said last. But it's all right. Because I came to the program and there were a lot of those whiteouts. And that's what it was like. I don't remember. I lost my place. I don't remember what I said last. But it's all right. Because I came to the program and there were a lot of those whiteouts. And that's what it was like, and I don't remember. I came to my first meeting, like I said, and I was scared to death, and I heard something that brought me to my second meeting. I used the following Sunday behind no sleep. I hadn't slept since I started kicking, and I didn't get more than a couple hours sleep at a time for like a month, 28 days, something like that. I used the following Sunday behind a hokey doke, I had this friend that I brought to the program. Anybody ever brought a friend to the program? I had a week clean. Right? I took him to a meeting, and his response was, "Man, I'm not, it's bullshit. This is ridiculous. Right? I'm going to go use." And I said, "You can't do that. You'll wreck my recovery." And we used my outfit, and I bought. And that was October 25th, 1970. And, it's been a long road, and I've got a lot of special feelings. I like the steps. I didn't work them at first. I did everything I could. If you don't want to work the steps, don't work them, as long as you can stand it. Don't write that inventory. Don't you dare write an inventory, man. Somebody might find out. Don't do it, as long as you can stand it. Don't make those amends. Don't pray. Don't work with others. Don't do any of those things. Don't do them. As long as you can stand it. But don't use. I don't care if you work the steps or not, stay clean. I work the steps because I like the results. I hate the process. It's humbling. I don't like to do that. It's one of my least favorite things, but I do it because I like the results. I like what happens to me when I take the action. My life changes. I find I can function as a human being a little bit more. A little bit more. I find myself unafraid in situations that terrified me. I find freedom. I love our promise. Freedom. Because that says it all for me. Because I was a slave. I really believe, looking back, that it took me 5 years to get any kind of handle at all on my relationship with my higher power. And took another 2.5, 3 years, something around that, before I trusted that higher power enough to really let go and really take a chance. And I've learned more about my program and staying clean and living in the last 5 years than I did in the first 9. By far. Today I have a higher power. Today I do the things that I need to do. My first 3 steps are real simple now. First step identifies the problem. Powerless over my addiction. My life has become unmanageable. And I worked it ass backwards like most of us, right? I believe we all get here because our life's unmanageable. Either we've made that decision, or the old ladies made that decision, or the judges made that decision, employers made that decision. Your life's unmanageable. 90 meetings in 90 days. Go somewhere, and there they got NA. We all get here because our life's unmanageable. And either we've snapped to it, or somebody else has. Straighten up your act. And the second step, came to believe that power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. That's identifying the solution. And it's a promise. And it's an action step for Greg. It doesn't have to be an action step for anyone else. But that implies action to me. It implies a change in the way that I react to things. It implies that I no longer have to be afraid of my insanity. Because I've got a higher power that's going to restore me to sanity. And the third step is putting the solution into practice. And it's real simple for me. I try and keep it that simple. I really believe I only have one defective character. And obsession with self. And that breaks out in lust, greed, envy, sloth, all those other things. You see, the reason I had to simplify it like that is because I used to spend days miserable trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with me. I didn't know what it was. God, I was hurting like hell, and I'd try and I'd ask people, is this greed or envy? I can't figure it out. Is it greed? Tell me about envy, and I'd write about it, right? Couldn't, I'd 3 or 4 days, and I hate being miserable. All I ever wanted was to feel okay. All I ever wanted was for it to be okay to live in this body, in this world. I used to think I got high to feel good. Bullshit. I got high to feel okay because I never felt okay. And all those things to me tie up with my spiritual disease, my lack of faith, and lack of hope, and self-obsession. That's my defect. And I think my shortcomings are the way my defects show themselves in the real world. And I believe that the way my God removes my defects of character is by giving the ability not to act on it. When I came around the program, I couldn't go in a store without stealing something. A pair of sunglasses, candy bar, pocketbook, Christmas presents. I could not go in the store without stealing something. My God gave me the ability to go in the store without stealing something. But I kept going into stores and stealing things because I didn't put that gift into action. And I kept feeling guilty. And I kept hating to go and make amends. And when the pain got bad enough, I put the gift into action. I was talking to somebody the other day and it was really neat because you see, they were asking when we were going to get through this. When is it going to be all right? And I says, it's already all right. We just haven't snapped to it yet. Haven't surrendered it to being okay yet. Haven't taken the action that's given us. And I really believe that about the program. I think for me, the 10 steps, one of the most important steps. Amends I skipped. Hell, I skipped them for 9 years. Why the hell should I skip them here? I don't want to do that. That's humbling. That's humiliating. But I have. And to my knowledge, I try not to. To my knowledge, I don't have any major ones that I can remember that I've come out in inventories remaining that I owe. And it feels good because now I can go anywhere I want. I don't have to put my head down and slink around the corner. And I made my list, from my inventories, and I put the list in the drawer for a few years. The 10th step has become extremely important to me because you see, one of the things I learned, I hate making amends, remember? I don't want to make any more amends. So it behooves me not to do the things that cause me to make amends. And the only way I can cope with that is by keeping track of what I'm doing. And to me, that's the 10th step. For me, it's 3 ways. It's a periodic, pretty heavy-duty look at Greg. It's a thought about the day, sometimes in writing, sometimes not for me, on how the day's been. But most of all, it's a monitoring process that goes on all the time about how I'm relating to my higher power, how I'm relating to you, and what's happening. And that's the way, I think that's the part of the 10th step that's given me the most relief because I don't put myself in near as many positions as I used to. And I think we start doing that right away. The 11th step, I didn't want to hear about. I think one thing that held me back on the 11th step, if you take all the adjectives and stuff out, it says sought to improve. contact, and I didn't have any. So how can I seek to improve something I haven't got? The biggest stumbling block to the steps is not having worked the previous ones. Believe me, I know. The biggest stumbling block is not having worked the previous ones sufficiently, not having surrendered sufficiently. And that's pretty much what it's been like. I think the 12-step is really neat. Because I think the 12-step describes recovery. I really believe that recovery is those three things that the 12-step talks about. An awakening of the spirit. The reaching out. And the living the life that the principles promise. Living this way. And recovery and staying clean is its own reward. I've done a lot of things in the program. I've had a lot of pain. I've had a lot of joy. I've been able to cry. I've been able to care. My life today is as good as it's ever been. Better than I can remember. I don't know how I was when I was 1 or 2. I don't know if it was good or bad, but I know it's got to be as good as it was. And I have a lot of hope today. I have a whole lot of hope. And I stand here, and I sat in Ohio Regional Convention in May and got the same feeling. That we're given such a gift. Each and every person in this room has been given something that mankind has done everything in their power to achieve throughout history. People have died for the chance you have. People have sold their souls for the chance you have, the chance I have. See, because each and every one of us has a chance to make a difference in the world. Just by staying clean, just by caring, just by giving somebody a hug. And we really can change the world. See, because spiritual principles always hold true. They don't depend on location. They don't depend on time and space. They're always true, and as long as our lives are based on those, we can change the world. And we can reach out. I started by saying I cried at the countdown because I remember when people wouldn't get time much. I know there are other people here who can remember that too. Remember when a year was a long, long, long time. There's some fellowships here tonight where a year is a long time. There's some fellowships here tonight where, a hell of a lot more died than stay clean. And I can remember the ones that died. I can remember the guy sitting in the Moore Park meeting talking about, I just can't make it, and getting blown away by his connection that night. I can remember the one who went into the bathroom and never came out. And to see this many people sitting in a room, clean, and counting down, just makes me cry. Because you verify my life. Because I bet my life that this son of a bitch would work. And you prove it works to me. You're the ones who prove it works, because my head will tell me, I was walking the dog 3 months ago and maybe I'm not an addict. Thank God that 30 seconds later the response was I listened to a tape last week of a man who I love very much. A few of you may know, that died playing volleyball on this program with a few years clean. And he said something that was really kind of neat. I really don't have to tell you about how good NA is. Because if you paid $30 for this dinner, and you don't know how good it is, and you're here at this convention and you don't know how good it is, you're really a chump. That's real insanity. We're the ones who know it works. We know it works. Look around. I don't have to tell you it works. I stand here and I'm really odd. Because you're part of me, and I'm part of you, and we're part of each other. And we can change the world. Yeah!